you have this annoying sound. The springs popping and carrying on. There they go. Let me see if I can't take care of that much annoying sound as you drag across those bolts. Get my sawzall out. See if I can't take care of it. Elbow racket. Let's see if we can't make it better. Okay, so here's the plan. Got my sawzall. Got me some shims. And you can see how much tension is on that bolt. I'll cut that up. I don't know if it's going to be enough or not, but I'm going to give it a try. If this don't work, I got another plan, a backup plan. So let me put some shims in here and get to cutting. Okay, you see I've got my shims there. I'm just going to get my sawzall, lay it right on that bolt, and zap it off. But I'm working one-handed today, so I'll zap this off real quick, and then we'll give it a test and see if it actually works. Whoops. Well, it was a great idea, but it's not going to work. It still rubs. So I'm going to go to plan B. See how that works out. Okay, here we go with plan B. I got me some leftovers from an old fish cutting board. So about a 1/2 inch thick. So I'm going to wedge that up here at the top. And that hopefully will give me just a little bit more spacing on that spring, get away from those bolts. And because it's that hard, slick plastic, the spring will slide. Let's try that and see what happens. Okay, you can see they're in place. And I do have some spacing now, just a little bit, but a little bit's all I need. All right, I'm going to drop it, see what happens here. And then hit store mode. Now there's popping on the other side because I haven't done it yet. But this side looks good. You know that racket on the other side? It's so annoying. I think this experiment's going to work. That's great, it's all. Alright, I just want to go do the same thing to the other side. See what happens. Okay, here we go. Ready for the test. Got the other side done. And I got the jacks fully extended all the way out. And let's see how noisy it is now. So go to turn this thing on. I'm going to hit store. Hear that? Pretty dang quiet. More of that bang, bang, bonging. It's kind of cold out here. They're going up kind of slow. I like it. I like it. For 10 years I've been listening to the thing bang, bang, bong. But that is much better. Just a little slow getting up. It's about 35 degrees out here. But anyway, I like that. So I'm going to still do some more fine tuning though. This is not the final version. Because I'm concerned about those blocks, them staying put. I don't suspect they will. Because once those springs come all the way up, it kind of loses some of its tension. It's not quite as tight. So let me think about that. Come up with something a little bit better. But I'm getting almost there. Alright, well I'm continuing on with my little experiment. Got me this cutting board here made out of polyethylene. Real hard, slick stuff. Don't want the spring to slide across. I'm going to cut me some squares here and do a test run to see how well this works. Oh, and for my first test I'm doing 4" by 3.5" squares to see how well that works. And if it doesn't work properly, I may adjust. Okay, well I've slid the blocks into place. You can kind of see how I've got them positioned. 3.5 by 4 inch. At the moment, the spring tension is holding them in place. I think I'm going to go behind them and put me a coat of GE silicone. I believe that'll be good to hold them good and tight. And I got the other one on the other side. You can see how it holds the spring away just a little bit, but it's super slick so the spring can slide as it retracts. And also the added benefit is they're not rubbing those stinking bolt heads making all that racket. So let's test this thing. Let me jump up here and lower the jacks. Let's go to store. See how quiet it is now. Hear that? I hear nothing. Completely quiet. You can see the spring is slowly retracting. It's kind of chilly today, but absolute silence. 10 years I've been listening to that racket, and I fixed it for what, $13 cutting board and a little bit of silicone caulk, maybe $15 invested. Nice and quiet. I like it. Let it get all the way up. Yeah, it's like watching paint dry, isn't it? Up we go, up we go. Can't believe how quiet that is. Get rid of that racket. That's good stuff. Now I'm going to just go around, put those blocks in on all the other jacks, do a final test with all of them, make sure all of them work well and quiet. Then I'll slide them out, put some sealant in behind them, stick it back in there. Super. All right. I was going to point this out. Before I had the idea of using this cutting board to make my spacing for the springs, I did have the idea of laying a piece of metal across the top. And there might be different options, or someone might want to do that. Say for instance you had a piece of this is plastic, but if it was metal, about 3/4 wide, 1/4 inch thick, you know, because you've already got holes right here where the springs go in. So if you took your plate of metal, you know, had you a hole, let me get in the camera shot, a hole here and a hole there. Well, this hole you could run a little bolt down in there to hold the plate of metal in place. The outer hole you could use to reposition the spring. So then now the spring would be up another 1/4 inch higher and out a little bit. So it might do two things. If you're dragging those bolts like I had, that'll take care of the clearance issues. But for someone that maybe you have the old style springs, they're not tapered on the ends, they're just straight. Maybe they're stretched a little bit and you don't want to spend the money to buy new springs, but you need just a little bit more oomph to get the jacks all the way up. That 1/4 inch more stretch may help a little bit. Just an idea, because that will, you know, I'll be making your springs a 1/4 inch higher and just give a little bit more pull. Because you can tell by the coils. See, my jacks are all the way up, but I still have some open coils, so they're still applying tension. But if your springs are all the way up and you don't have any open coils, then, you know, you just about run out of stroke right at the end. But just another thought I had. It might be useful for somebody. All right, here we go. I'll show you my process. Try to get my light in the right spot. Since I got my springs spaced out where I can easily put my block up in here. There we go. Just like that. But first of all, before I do that, is I need to clean it. So I got me some brake cleaner and spritz that. Take my rag, dry it off. That's the great thing about that brake cleaner. It dries so quick, gets any dust, oil residue off really good. And then I'm going to got me this GE silicone, and I got, because what I say, this is polyethylene, I think, surface. And some stuff can be very, one of the items that can stick to it is pure silicone. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to put my big old daub of silicone on that and stick it up there. And I think that'll work for me. I believe it'll hold it. If I see it moving or not staying put, I could run me one single self-tapping screw, because this metal is kind of thin right here. So I could shoot me one screw through it, and but I believe I've had good luck with this silicone before holding stuff like this in place. So that's what I'm about to do, and something else I was going to point out. Hang on, let me get repositioned. Okay, you see my big old gob of silicone on there. I'm going to try to carefully get that up in there and film it at the same time. I don't know if I can do that or not. And not make a mess. Careful, careful. There we go. All right. Yeah. In fact, you can see the silicone squeezing out there a little bit from the pressure of the spring on it. So I believe that will hold me. Just go around and do that to the rest of them. Squish it out more. There we go. When that cures, it should be fine. But again, I'll keep an eye on it. If I catch them moving any, I'll shoot me one self-tapping screw through there into the sheet metal, because I got to be wary of where the cylinder is. But there's quite a bit of spacing back there, so don't hit the cylinder. Well, while I was under here, I was going to talk about these HWH jacks. When I first got this RV, going back 10 years ago, one of our first second trips, the jack did not come all the way up. And it only lacked just an inch or so from coming all the way up. And I thought, well, I'll just drive on down the road. It'll eventually get on up there. But not knowing any better and not realizing, or even stopping to read the manual at the time, there's so much to learn when you first get an RV. I did not realize those jacks have to be up within 7 minutes. Because when you hit the store button, those solenoids open up and they overheat if they don't get closed or shut off within 7 minutes. And of course, the only thing that shuts them off is once the jacks retract all the way and trip a switch at the top, and that turns the power off to the solenoids, allowing them to cool back down. So me not knowing any better, I just went on down the road thinking it'll eventually shut up. And of course, after 30 minutes, it was still binging and bonging without alarm, saying jack was down. And then I got out and I said, okay, well, I'll put a jack under it or something. But by then I didn't know it had burned up the solenoid, so the solenoid was staying closed, so I couldn't even force it up. So I had to just unplug the connector to the back of the HWH control board there on the dashboard to keep from listening to that racket all the way back home. So after I got home, I went to the place where I bought the RV. And they told me the only fix for this jack right here was to put a new one on it. That was the only repair option for it. And that was 9 years ago. So I said, well, let me hold off. Let me think about that. So I went and talked to a fella that I know who owns a hydraulic cylinder repair shop. He makes cylinders, repairs, and been doing that for 40 years. And I talked to him about it. And he told me, he said, just, extend the jack all the way down, clean it really well, and lather it in transmission oil fluid. And that's what I did, and I retracted it a couple times, and that was the fix. So after being told I needed a new jack, just by cleaning the jack and lathering it in transmission, because I asked him, I said, what about WD-40? He says, no, do not use WD-40. He says, you won't find a can of WD-40 in his shop, because something about the seals, the packing, he knows from experience not to use the WD-40. He said, but because up inside this cylinder, well, on the back side you can't see it, it's full of transmission oil. That's what that chrome cylinder is being bathed in constantly. And over time, so every time you think about it, every time we go to a campground, we extend these jacks, and they're exposed to all the dirt and grit and dust. And when you go to retract that jack, all that dirt, gravel, dust is shoved up into that packing, causing trouble, causing it to get slow. So when the jack is all the way down, so what I did, after doing it a couple times, it was kind of a messy job. I ended up coming up with this idea. I just got me a little thing of shoe polish, and where it's got that little rubber and foam applicator at the top. So I got this filled with transmission oil or fluid, and with that makes it really easy to lather that tube and then retract it a couple times. In fact, whenever after I've been at a campground for a while, and I've had the jacks down, especially if you're in an area where it's dusty, gravel roads or something like that, take a close look at those jacks, crawl under there, and you'll see how much grit and stuff is on them. So before I retract my jacks, I'll take me a microfiber cloth, wipe them down really clean. I'll lather them with this and then retract them. And I've been doing that. I've never had any more problems with this jack or any of my jacks. And this is 15-year-old. So it might be a good tip for you. So anyway, I'll let that cure. Now I have nice, quiet HWH jacks when they retract. No more racket. In fact, I just seen laying here, so that's the sliver of the bolt I cut off, all 4 of them. I don't know why they left the factory that way, and I don't know how common this is, but I've been listening to that noise for 10 years. But no more, finally fixed, and it was cheap enough, 15 bucks or so. Anyway, I guess that'll do it for this project. You guys have a great day. See you later. Thanks for watching. Bye.